interrupt our regular program schedule to bring you the following special report from ABC News.
This is Lynn Scher at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida, where Challenger's last links to Earth are being severed, where the weather has made it a great day for flying, according to Commander Bob Crippen, and where plenty of proud people, particularly female people, are on hand to watch America's first woman go into space. Good morning. It is a beautiful day, and indeed, this is Sally Ride's day to make history. In less than 3 minutes, she will go up with Challenger's second trip into space, and Sally Ride's first. And indeed, it's going to be a great day. And joining us here for our coverage is our friend, our colleague, Apollo astronaut Gene Cernan. And Gene, it's going to come as no surprise to you. I talked to Sally Ride yesterday, and the cool, calm scientist finally admitted her heart rate had gone up, and she is excited.
Well, might well she should be, Lynn, and I think we ought to remember, though, that there are 4 other people on this flight, and I'm sure Sally's excitement is shared by each of them, because for 3 of them, it's their first flight also.
Okay, well, let's take a look at that. This is, of course, a crew that is commanded by Bob Crippen. The pilot is Rick Houck. He's 42 years old. John Fabian, who's 44. There's Sally Ride. And Dr. Norman Thagard, who's 40, was added only fairly recently because he's a physician, and NASA has decided it really wants to look into space sickness, which they're now calling space adaptation syndrome, and that's what he's doing up there.
1 minute, 15 seconds, and the liquid hydrogen tank is at flight pressure.
That's the voice of shuttle control, Hugh Harris, who has, in his own way, launched all of these shuttles so far.
We're coming up on 1 minute. The countdown has been near perfect all day long.
1 minute, and the firing system for the sound suppression water system on the pad is armed. T-minus 55. The hydrogen igniters under the orbiter's engines have been armed. These devices are used to ensure that hydrogen flowing through the engines does not accumulate, causing a small explosion and pressure pulse at engine ignition.
We should point out that Sally Ride is acting as flight engineer on the ascent, sitting behind the commander and the pilot, reading out instruments with him.
She's got a very critical task along with the command pilot and pilot on this launch sequence.
Sitting behind her, John Fabian, and on the middeck area, the 5th passenger for the flight up, Dr. Norman Thagard.
17 seconds.
And as we launch,
counting, the body flap and speed breaker in launch position. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. We go for main engine start. We have main engine start and ignition and liftoff. Liftoff of STS7 and America's first woman astronaut. And the shuttle has cleared the tower.
Comes that big rumble.
25 roll maneuver complete.
Roll is complete. I mean, running back.
It's right through the cloud and out again.
Down now to 75% is programmed.
And we felt that. We felt the rumble much sooner than we'd ever felt it before, Gene.
Never ceases to be exciting.
45 seconds. Challenger now 3 nautical miles in altitude. 50 seconds coming up now and create a maximum aerodynamic pressure on the vehicle.
The vehicle is moving at 1,000 miles an hour. She's already left the pad 1 minute ago.
Altitude mark 1 minute.
You're now hearing the voice of Mission Control from Houston. They, of course, take over as soon as the shuttle clears the pad.
This is perhaps the best view we've had of the booster and the shuttle engines firing this far away. It's an outstanding picture.
Very hard to see with the naked eye still. There are people with... Oh, no, it's right above us. Absolutely right above us. It's going straight up this time. Look at that. Right at the end of that long, long trail of smoke. People here at the cave having a perfect view of it as it continues on its way. Gene, I believe they may see the solid rocket booster separate again.
Definitely we will. And then you might note that we did get off on time.
We did get off on time.
40 seconds. Challenger now 16 nautical miles in altitude, 13 nautical miles downrange. Crippen, Houck and company. Now coming into the last traces of the Earth's atmosphere. Challenger now 19 nautical miles in altitude.
That's over 100,000 feet and 2,000 miles an hour.
55 seconds. Challenger 21 nautical miles in altitude, 21 nautical miles downrange.
We are very close to the solid rocket booster separation. Just keep your eye on the screen. You'll see them split away in just a second.
Right now. There they go.
There they go.
Roger, set.
That means the shuttle now is flying on its own
Confirmed good solid
engine
rocket
capability.
booster separation. The booster's falling away now.
They will be recovered, of course, and used on another mission.
2 minutes, 20 seconds.
Challenger Houston, your first stage performance was nominal.
Roger, nominal first stage. That was Capcom Roy Bridges advising first stage performance. Onboard guidance is converging now as programmed. Challenger is now steering for a precise window in space for main engine shutdown.
Over 200,000 feet in the air, and we can still see it from here.
40 seconds.
It's a tiny silver sliver up there in the sky.
Like a morning star.
Nominal, of course, is what they want to hear. That means everything is, that's astronaut talk, right, Gene?
That's astronaut talk.
Challenger Houston, you have 2-engine tower capability.
Roger, 2-engine talk.
That means they can cross the Atlantic now. If they lose an engine, they do not have to come back.
Capcom Roy Bridges says the Challenger now has landing capability at Dakar Airport should one engine go out.
And apparently the weather there is acceptable should they have to land in Dakar, which of course they don't want to do.
Challenger's 3 main engines continue to run smoothly. Challenger's 5-person crew really moving out now. Velocity now reading 7,200 feet per second.
I hope you noticed that, Gene. You referred to it as a five-person crew.
Person crew.
Even NASA can learn to speak the language.
3 minutes, 25 seconds. Challenger 45 nautical miles in altitude. A return status check and mission control by Flight Director Jay Green.
Well, that was
3 minutes,
beautiful.
25
That was so
seconds.
beautiful
Crew
that
aboard
we're going to
Challenger's
show it
gonna
to
go
you
to
again while
continue.
Challenger goes on its way. Here we go. Liftoff. And we can listen. It's not bad to watch again, huh, Gene?
Another spectacular morning. The weather has cooperated just fantastically today.
And the folks here at the Cape got a great view because there were just a few clouds. You could see the solid rocket booster separate.
That plume extends perhaps 3 times the length of the shuttle booster system.
And it looks as if Sally Ride is on her way to do exactly what her husband, Steve Hawley, another astronaut, advised her. As she left, he said to her, have a ball. Everything remains nominal. They certainly will.
Well, like I say, she got all her luggage on board and they got off on time, and I think that's a major milestone of its own.
Well, NASA has a lot to its credit. Let's look at it again. The
There's
amazing
engine
thing this
ignition.
time is that NASA turned it around so quickly, and there were absolutely no hitches of any significance in the countdown. This was absolutely the smoothest one so far. They've really learned how to do it, haven't they, Gene?
You betcha. And as we watch Challenger lift off, just remember it'll be 6 more days and she'll be coming right back here under her own, basically under her own power. And that is a very unique first. And
That's what NASA
sophistication
really
of
wants
spaceflight.
too, isn't it? to
That's
bring
the
it back
real
here?
key. You know, we can take off and land from the same spot, begin to use Challenger as a workhorse that it really was planned to be. That's a fantastic
25
view.
seconds, roll maneuver completed.
In real time now, they do have a press to MECO, which means they've been given a go right on through to main engine shutoff.
So much for the need for Dakar.
40 seconds. Challenger now 2.5 nautical miles in altitude. 45 seconds. Challenger now 3 nautical miles in altitude.
Well, that's the best news of all. They're on their way to orbit. We'll come back and find them in orbit, and we will have our coverage of the Space Shuttle Challenger continuing in just a moment.
ABC News.
Well, we are back here at the Cape. Challenger, it's on its way. It just got the good news to go ahead to main engine cutoff, which means they will be, when they get there, committed to orbit. We're waiting for that magic moment. Also, the next magic thing we're going to see is that the external tank, the fuel tank, will separate and drop into the ocean, never to be seen or used again.
Coming up to their main engine cutoff now.
Roger MECO, main engine is cut off. They are committed to orbit.
Challenger has delivered to space
performed
the largest
perfectly,
human
Lynn.
payload in the history of mankind. 4 men, 1 woman.
Roger, set.
And there it goes. That's the external
8 minutes,
tank
44
separating,
seconds, confirmed
about to drop
external
into the
tank
ocean. You see Challenger looks as if it's upside down. Of course, in space, Gene, there is no upside down, right?
Well, but relative to us, of course, it is looking down at the Earth as it goes on its final effort into orbit.
Go, no go, status check.
Well, now that Challenger is on its way, and we're very happy and proud about that. After they get into orbit, a little bit time from now, they will have lots of activities to perform. And our colleague Jules Bergman is standing by in Houston, where Mission Control is located. Good morning, Jules, and what have you got to tell us about what Challenger will do next after this terrific, amazing feat?
Good morning, Lynn. The major flight goal is the deployment of 2 communication satellites, one for Canada to supply TV service and one for Indonesia, linking its thousands of islands with radio, TV, data, and telephone service. Both birds weigh nearly 10,000 pounds with their engines and are the most advanced made. The launches should look just like this one 2 missions ago. The Canadian satellite goes first, about 9 hours from now, followed tomorrow by the Indonesian satellite. They'll be hurled into their final orbits by the Payload Assist Module rocket, which worked so well last November. So once again, the shuttle is at work, carrying payloads for profit. Lynn?
Thank you, Jules. Well, what a day. The first American woman into space, the first 5-person crew. Shortly from now, they will get into orbit. And Gene Cernan, I have some news for you. As a result of today's successful launch, Sally Ride has become the youngest astronaut ever to fly.
Oh, I've just been replaced again.
Just broke Gene's record. Gene now is the youngest male astronaut ever to have flown.
Thank you, Lynn.
A good job for them. Thanks very much.
I think indeed it is a historical moment, and Sally's presence in space is truly a step forward, I think, for the space program, for capability of all of us here.
Well, I thank you, Gene Cernan, Jules Bergman, and for all of those here at ABC News who were helpful in getting that rocket off the pad and getting us to get it to you. We will have more reports on Challenger as the situation warrants, and of course a complete wrap-up tonight on the ABC News Weekend Report. I'm Lynn Sherr at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. Good morning.
Throughout the mission, stay with ABC News to follow the flight of Challenger. Live coverage of today's Space Shuttle launch has been a special events presentation of ABC News. We now resume our regular program schedule. After this, from our local stations.